Johannes Ockeghem was the most famous composer of the Franco-Flemish School in the last half of the 15th century, and is often considered the most influential composer between Dufay and Josquin des Prez. In addition to being a renowned composer, he was also an honored singer, choirmaster, and teacher. The spelling of Ockeghem's name comes from a supposed autograph of his which survived as late as 1885, and was reproduced by Eugene Giraudet, a historian in Tours. The document has since been lost. In 15th-century sources, the spelling Ockeghem predominates. Ockeghem is believed to have been born in Saint-Ghislain, Belgium. His birth date is unknown. Dates as early as 1410, and as late as 1430 have been proposed. The earlier date is based on the possibility that he knew Binchois in Hainaut before the older composer moved from Mons to Lille in 1423. Ockeghem would have to have been younger than 15 at the time. This particular speculation derives from Ockeghem's reference in the lament he read on the death of Binchois in 1460, to a chanson by Binchois dated to the time. In this lament, Ockeghem not only honored the older composer by imitating his style, but also revealed some useful biographical information about him. A comment by the poet Guillaume Creighton in the lament he read on Ockeghem's death in 1497. It was a great shame that a composer of his talents should die before 100 years old, is also often taken as evidence for the earlier birth date for Ockeghem. In 1993, documents dating from 1607 were found stating that Johannes Ockeghem was a native of Saint-Ghislain in the county of Hainaut, which was confirmed by references in 16th-century documents. This suggests that, though he first appears in records in Flanders, he was a native speaker of Picard. Previously, most biographies surmised that he was born in East Flanders, either in the town after which he was named or in the neighboring town of Dendermonde, where the surname Ockeghem occurred in the 14th and 15th century. Occasionally, Ave, now in the Nord department in France, was suggested as his birthplace as well. Details of his early life are lacking. Like many composers in this period, he started his musical career as a chorister, although the exact location of his education is unknown. Mons, a town near Saint-Ghislain that he had at least 2 churches with competent music schools, has been suggested. The first actual documented record of Ockeghem is from the Ons Liefrauwe Cathedral in Antwerp, where he was employed in June 1443 as a left-hand choir singer. He probably sang under the direction of Johannes Polloy, whose employment also dates from that year. This church was a distinguished establishment, and it was likely here that Ockeghem became familiar with the English compositional style, which influenced late 15th century musical practice on the continent. Between 1446 and 1448, Ockeghem served, along with singer and composer Jean Cousin, at the court of Charles I, Duke of Bourbon in Moulins, now in central France. During this service he became the first among the singing chaplains to appear in the court records. Around 1452 he moved to Paris, where he served as maestro di cappella to the French court, as well as treasurer of the Collegiate Church of Saint Martin at Tours. In addition to serving at the French court, both for and Louis XI, he held posts at Notre Dame de Paris and at Saint Benoît. He is known to have traveled to Spain in 1470 as part of a diplomatic mission for the king, which was a complex affair attempting both to dissuade Spain from joining an alliance with England and Burgundy against France, and to arrange a marriage between Isabella I of Castile and Charles, Duke of Guyenne. After the death of Louis XI, not much is known for certain about Ockeghem's whereabouts, though it is known that he went to Bruges and Tours, and he probably died in the latter town since he left a will there. An indication of the renown in which Ockeghem was held is the number of laments written on his death in 1497. Among the most famous of the musical settings of these many poems is Nymphes des Bois by Josquin des Prés. Ockeghem probably studied with Gilles Binchois, and at least was closely associated with him at the Burgundian court, since Antoine Basnoy wrote a motet in honor of Ockeghem sometime before 1467. It is probable that those two were acquainted as well, and writers of the time often link Dufay, Basnoy and Ockeghem. Although Ockeghem's musical style differs considerably from that of the older generation, it is probable that he acquired his basic technique from them, and as such can be seen as a direct link from the Burgundian style to the next generation of Netherlanders, such as Obrecht and Josquin. Music and influence. Ockeghem was not a prolific composer, given the length of his career and extent of his reputation, and some of his work was lost. Many works formerly attributed to Ockeghem are now presumed to be by other composers. Ockeghem's total output of reliably attributed compositions, as with many of the most famous composers of the time, has shrunk with time. Surviving, reliably attributed works include some 14 masses, an isolated credo, 5 motets, a motet chanson, and 21 chansons. 13 of Ockeghem's masses are preserved in the Chigi Codex, a Flemish manuscript dating to around 1500. His Missa pro defunctus is the earliest surviving polyphonic requiem mass. Some of his works, alongside compositions by his contemporaries, are included in Petrucci's Harmonious Musices Odicatin, the first collection of music to be published using movable type. Dating Ockeghem's works is controversial, as there are almost no external references allowing precise dating, excepting of course the death of Binchois, for which Ockeghem composed a motet chanson. The Missa caput is almost certainly an early work, since it follows on an anonymous English mass of the same title dated to the 1440s, and his late masses may include the Missa Maestresses and Missa for Sealement. In view of both his innovative treatment of the cantus firmus, and his tendency to write more and more homogeneous textures later in his life, Ockeghem used the cantus firmus technique in about half of his masses. The earliest of these masses use head motifs at the start of the individual movements, a practice which was common around 1440 but which was archaic after around mid-century. Two of his masses, Missa Maestresses and Missa for Sealement, are based on chansons he wrote himself, and use more than one voice of the chanson, foreshadowing the parody mass techniques of the 16th century. In his remaining masses, including the Missa Mimi, Missa Quies Vistoni, and Missa Prolationum, no borrowed material has been found, and the works seem to have been freely composed. Ockeghem would sometimes place borrowed material in the lowest voice, such as in the Missa caput, one of 3 masses written in the mid-15th century based on that fragment of chant from the English Sarum Rite. Other characteristics of Ockeghem's compositional technique include his liking for varying the rhythmic shape of voices, so as to maintain their independence, a strong influence on Josquin des Prés and the subsequent generation of Netherlanders. Ockeghem was famous throughout Europe. Charles VI for his expressive music, although he was equally renowned for his technical prowess. Two of the most famous contrapuntal achievements of the 15th century include the astonishing Missa Prolationum, which consists entirely of mensuration canons, and the Missa Quies Vistoni, designed to be performed in any of the different modes. But even these technique-oriented masterpieces demonstrate his insightful use of vocal ranges and uniquely expressive expressive tonal language. Being a renowned bass singer himself, his use of wide-ranging and rhythmically active bass lines sets him apart from many of the other composers in the Netherlandish schools. Ockeghem died in Tours, France. To commemorate his death, Josquin Desprez composed the motet La Déclaration de la Mort de Johannes Ockeghem, a setting of the poem Nymphes des Bois by Jean Molinet. An unusually large number of laments appeared after the death of this great composer. Some of the authors of these poems included Molinet and Desiderius or Erasmus. Johannes Lupi provided another musical setting. Works: Masses Missa Sine Nominea 3, Missa Sine Nominea 5, Missa o Travel Sui, Missa Caput, Missa Quies Vestoni, Missa de Plus N Plus, Missa Ecce Ancilla Domini, Missa Forciament 5, Missa Lomame 4, Missa Mame Stress, Missa Mimi, Missa Prolationem 4, Missa Quintitonia 3, Missa Pro Defunctus 4, Credo Sine Nomine, Motets Marian Antiphons Alma Redemptoris Mater, Ave Maria, Salve Regina. Others in Temerata Dei Mater 5, Arteramita Solus, Deo Gratias 36, Motet Chanson Mortuas Navre Miserere, Chansons 2 voices O Rosabella, 3 voices Alta Venus Estes, O Travel Sui, Basies Moi Don't Fort, Dung Alta Mare, Forciament Contra, Forciament Latente, Il Niemiencho Plus, Le Dispor Vui Elabani, Laughter Dantan, Les Desleo Ont Le César, Ma Bouche Rit, Ma Me Stress, Prines sur moi, Presque Transi, Quant de vous seul, Qu'uis mi vida pregantes. Chez vostre QS Longia, tant fus et jedment resjai, un alta la, 3 or 4 voices Jeni duil, 4 voices Cel Amera Petite Camisit. Recordings, Flemish Masters, Virginia Arts Recordings, VAO 4413, performed by Zephyrs, includes the Ockeghem Alma Redemptoris Mater, the Obrecht Missa Subtuum Presidium, as well as motets by Willert, Clemens non Papat Josquin, Mouton, and Gombert. Angeles, Virginia Arts Recordings, VAO 0338, performed by Zephyrs, includes the Ockeghem Ave Maria, Benedicta II, as well as motets by Palestrina, Josquin, Victoria, Rory, Morales, Clemens non Papat Lassus, De Wert, and Andrea Gabrielli. Missa Quies Vistoni, Eon, ACD 0753, performed by Ensemble Musica Nova, Lucian Candle. First recording of the 4 versions. Ed. Gerard Gay. Missa Prolationem, Agogem Ago 008, Ensemble Musica Nova, Lucian Candle. Ed. Gerard Gay.